Hey guys, this is FMeister94 here with my tier list for all South Park Phone Destroyer cards live on stream. So I've got a list set up of 172 cards and we're going to try and rank every single one of them. And yeah, just because this is just because I'm doing this live, and I do want to avoid any sort of biases to actually be put on me. I want it to be completely unfiltered, first, second opinion in terms of what the best cards are in order. So yeah, we're going to start here. But as you can see here, there's a lot of cards there. 172 cards in total. You can barely see them. So I just recommend having it up to as highest definition as possible. But all 172 cards are there. So there's definitely a lot to go through here, for sure. Okay, so the first on the list here is Mr. Hanky. Okay, Mr. Hanky, when I think of Mr. Hanky, I'm generally thinking of every single charge card that you want to run. So like Sana Somdex, the very good option. In terms of just ridiculous healing, in terms of Bar Brady's with your Medicine Sharon. I would say it's definitely a very kind of meta card in general. So at least for the time being, I'll stick it in A tier, but I might drop it down to B tier. Okay, then we have Hercules Clyde. Hercules Clyde I generally see as not being like valuable. Like the only ever time that I'd ever see anyone playing like Hercules Clyde is if it's an event card. There is some useful positions of it. I might put it in low C, but for the time being I might just put it into D, I think. Okay, then we've got Thunderbird. Originally when it was played, I saw it as being a very good card, and I actually see it like probably being a very good card in terms of like chip decks. It could go well in C tier. I could see it being useful in certain positions, but honestly, I rarely ever see it a card. I'm kind of tempted to put it into D tier. Like honestly, I would say both Hercules Clyde and Thunderbird are kind of similar in the sense that just nobody wants to ever use them. Like they're just not very consistent, really. Outlaw Tweck. I really do like Outlaw Tweck. I think it's a good card. I think in certain times you could make use out of it, and I see it as having some benefits as well. Just because I do like it, I think it's an okay C tier card, honestly. Captain Diabetes. Captain Diabetes is very good. Again, very cheap card, especially if you want to try and run like a Member Berries deck or something, or if you're running like Pope or something. He's not targeted by those, so you can always have it in your hand, and you can try and spawn for something that is extremely strong. Honestly, I definitely think it's a very clear B tier card. I would say I'd say it's a pretty high B tier card, honestly. Okay, Henrietta. She's definitely very good. Like if you're running like Cock Magic, she could be a very good addition. If you're running Wulan Critters, she'd be a very good addition. I'm really kind of like not 100% sure on either being a low enough A. Like she isn't like the most meta there, but she's still a really solid card, honestly. For the time being, I might put her high B, maybe. I don't know. She might go into A, though. Buccaneer. I wouldn't say she's a D tier. Like, honestly, she could be useful, especially if someone's, like, running critters or whatever. Or, like, running, like, assassins. And once she starts really getting up there, she's pretty solid. So I definitely would say she's got uses. And to C, I would say, for the time being. Alright, pigeons. I mean, I think there's a lot of benefits of pigeons, especially if you're, like, running, especially if you're running maybe, like, in a cold deck or something. Like, pigeons are definitely a very good, like, option to run. I don't think they're that terrible, really. I would say it's very low C. I could certainly see uses of it. So yeah, kind of where I'm like going on is I feel like A's are very kind of like meta cards in general. B's are very, very good cards. But at the same time, I don't feel like they're 100% there either. C's, I would say they're kind of hard to use, but I could definitely see use in them. I feel like D cards are pretty bad. They just see absolutely no use, and then of course A and F, S and F are kind of very they're very biased. Okay. Inuit. I think Inuit is generally very kind of cheap. It's a very cheap card. It can really get you off tight spots. I would say it's a very good, solid, A tier card, honestly. Let's see here. We've got Coop. Coop is generally a very good card in general, especially if like anyone's running like Cock Magic or whatever. It's definitely kind of like a solid option. For timing, I think I'm just going to put it into B, maybe. Stan the Great. Stan the Great is very solid card, I would say. Like, especially, like, it's, if you're really trying to, like, if you got a push going, and if you can get a really good few, like, debuffs off in him, he can just really save that push and just generally keep you going and taking that bar. So he's definitely a solid card, I would say. I would say more in the higher C tier kind of category. Cock Magic. Very much in those higher tiers. Cock Magic is a very good, it's a very solid card. So I'd say it's a solid A tier card, honestly. Polka. I mean, at lower ranks, I think Polka is really strong. Polka just has really good DPS. But then the higher you're going up, like, it's just not really seen that much, really. I mean, I think it's a solid, like, high C tier card at this point. Still a very good card, though. Probably a bit, honestly, more better than maybe Stan, really, honestly. Alright, next we have Aiden Clyde. I mean, I don't think really Aiden Clyde sees that much benefit, but I still see some bit of a benefit, but just compared to all the other cards, he's very low C tier. I would say, I don't think he's as bad as maybe like Pigeons or whatever, but nothing too ridiculous with him, I would say. Then we have Call Girl. Call Girl, I would say, is definitely a solid A tier card, I would say. Very much a benefit if you're always running like superheroes. She's always guaranteed to get there just to get you really good energy value. If you can really run her a fair few times, you're definitely gonna find that there's a lot of like she's just a guarantee card you really have to be running. Lightning Bolt, I mean, like, it can really come in clutch. Like, lots of cards would honestly, you know, it could just get rid of that really annoying card that just, like, is absolutely being a pain. If it's something like a flying unit, if it's just a range unit you can't seem to get to, if you're trying to get rid of a tower and you've got a very high, high, and you just can't get to it, like a tower or whatever, it does high damage to that. Alright. Okay, then we have SWOW Titty Bang. Solid card there for sure. S-Wow Titty Bang. I think she's really useful, especially at higher levels. I still find that like a lot of people just don't necessarily really have her to those higher levels. So, I don't know. Like, I think she's a really solid card, but I'm not sure if I'd really put her above those other ones. So I'm just maybe going to put her high B tier, maybe. Okay, now we're talking about President Garrison. President Garrison, he can be useful, but I think I just rarely ever see him. But, like, do I think he's an absolutely terrible card? I mean, I think it can come in clutch sometimes. Like, it can come in clutch sometimes if you can kind of, like, use it well. Still, though, it seems like a kind of a low enough C tier card. It's not really that great. Next card we have is Mr. Mackey. Mr. Mackey is really useful, especially lots of kid units in general in the game. You're going to find a lot of use out of it. Like, there's a lot of cards that you're going to get really good benefit out of if you really want to take things out with new kid zap damage. So it's definitely a very solid B tier card, I would say. Next one is Space Warrior Tolkien. Space Warrior Tolkien, definitely a solid card. Like, I would say low B tier. Again, it's another 2-point unit. It's very, very useful in your deck for just like if you don't want to be if you're running stuff like that will like literally try and get like 3 costs on the field. It's just generally a very cheap unit, very good damage for how much it costs. It's just a good solid B tier card, I would say. Next one we have is Mind Control. Or sorry, not Mind Control, but Hyperdrive. Hyperdrive, I'd either say like low B tier or low C tier. Like, I could definitely see it very useful in any sort of deck where you have some like low cost, where you have some speed cards or whatever. You're running a speed deck in general. You're going to run in it. I might just go with low C tier. I don't know. I still find a lot of people just don't use it, and especially for myself as well. I find that I just honestly fluff this card a lot. I find like it could be a bit awkward to play sometimes in terms of like just picking the right time to really run it. And just for that, I would still say it's a solid C tier card, honestly. Some people it would be a good B tier card though, because it can certainly be a very good addition to the deck. I can certainly see that benefit. Okay, next we have is Belf. Belf, she's pretty useful, but like just nobody really plays her. She sees like no play. She just doesn't do enough damage really. C tier, I don't really feel too much of these cards at the moment are overly kind of D tier cards at the moment. Alright, next we've got Terrence Mephisto. I can see Terrence Mephisto having some use, but like it's definitely a card I just never ever see around, honestly. So I'd feel on the same thing with like with Hercules Clyde, where it's just a barely seeable card. It's just kind of not that great at all. I'd just toss it in the D tier, I think. Next card we have is, of course, Barbrady. Officer Barbrady. Officer Barbrady. At lower ranks, I could certainly see it kind of being a decent enough card. And I can certainly see it useful, especially at much lower ranks. At higher ranks, then it's just kind of like not really there. But even still, though, especially with like Dar, it can be a pretty decent card. Even like at higher ranks, like a good timed like Officer Barbrady can be pretty damn good. I'm just tossing in C tier. At this point, I'm not really caring too much about like where I'm putting it. But yeah, I'll just toss in C tier for the time being. Next we have is Dr. Timothy. I sometimes forget these cards' names. Dr. Timothy. So, Dr. Timothy, I'd say it's a solid B tier card. Next we have is Alien Queen Red. Definitely, like, before Alien Queen Red was pretty good, but now, like, I just find her quite useless card. In general, just the amount of time that it takes for her to kill anything. Like, you know, they're probably already in a position where they're doing very well at this point if you're ever really going to get good value out of her. But there is times where she can be kind of useful. I don't know, just for the fact that I rarely ever see her at this point, I still think she's kind of, honestly, a D tier card for the most part. Next we have got is, we've got Osimo. I mean, I think Osimo is a solid card. Like, if you're running any sort of, like, sci-fi deck, I think he's a pretty good card. Like, good freeze damage. He's very slow, so he can just really try and bait the opponent into his half. So it's a good kind of, like, slow push kind of card. It's good to kind of keep things on your side of the field. And his freeze is very beneficial, of course, as well. So I'd say it's a solid B tier card. Then we have the Garrison. Swordsman Garrison, isn't it? Swordsman Garrison. Yeah, Swordsman Garrison. I think at lower ranks it's a pretty decent card, but like especially at the higher ranks, you know, it's just going to die way too fast, I think. I mean, if you can get like maybe a Sana on Swordsman, I think it's pretty good. So I'd say it's kind of like sort of worse than, it's definitely better than maybe the Stan, maybe. It's kind of hard with a lot of these cards. I'm like, there's just so many cards. Like, how would I position them? I'm kind of like thinking at the same time, and I'm like, yeah, what if in this situation? So yeah, definitely like my actual how I'm going to vote on every one of these is just not going to be very good because of the fact that they're kind of just a bit all over the place in terms of where it is. But yeah, I'm kind of like mainly focusing on cards and just thinking like, where would I kind of fit them? And the main thing I'm thinking of fitting them is basically what would I see most often. I think a lot of these C tier cards, they're generally just cards I'd never really see, and especially at these kind of like lower ranks, I think it's just like at the higher ranks, you know, you just rarely ever see these cards. It's kind of where I'm putting them in that position. Nathan, I think it's a solid card at more so lower ranks, but again, it just doesn't really see any sort of play much higher up, and I'd go kind of C tier maybe. Now, Robo Baby. Again, I think she, like, her speed up is pretty good, but, like, that's the thing. Like, you're not going to be able to use her speed up very well. So, honestly, I'd say she's more so like a D tier card. Any sort of sci-fi decks, like, you'd only ever see her during events. Poison. Yeah, nobody really runs like Poison in general. Like, it's definitely one of those sci-fi cards that just nobody really kind of wants to run. Like, it's just not going to kill anything fast enough. But it has its situations where it can just be very useful. But it's still fairly high cost for it. But yeah, there's certain points in which you'd kind of use it. So I could certainly see, like, I'd say C tier, honestly. PC Principle. In this day and age, I just see very little use of it ever. Like, its push can be very good, but its push can be okay at lower ranks, but like it's just gonna nearly 50% of the time honestly work back in your favor. And I never really see that card ever, and I'm like, I definitely think it's kind of like, and I don't really ever really want to use it because it sometimes can work well in your favor, but it's just going to get really eaten very fast, or else it's just going to it's just going to target the wrong unit that you don't want it to be targeting because it's just pushing everything back so much. Dark Angel Red, I definitely think are a very kind of important, like, important mystical card to run, so I think I might just put that like kind of like low A tier, because yeah, like, again, a lot of people just want to kind of run cards that are just generally going to kind of like keep their energy as good as possible, and there's a lot of situations and a lot of neat little kind of like, you know, situations where you can really use her ability to your advantage. I'm pretty bad with that card though, but I can certainly recognize that it's a very strong card and can certainly be used very well and can really just get you massive kind of like an energy benefit. So I'll just stick it on A tier. Scuzzlebot. I definitely think Scuzzlebot's a very strong card. And especially that ability makes it very strong. But it doesn't see as much play higher up, I guess. But I still think like a well like organized deck, it can really just like absolutely swing you the game. And if there's like these and like especially like a lot of cards that really can use Scuzzlebot's ability very well. Like trying to get like having a Critters have it, or maybe other kind of character or other kind of like characters, or maybe like Nicole, just any character like you really need to try and get rid of, and it's just basically kind of like cycling out of control. Like, you really do not want to do that, I would say. So that's why I'm kind of like, I'll put it like low B tier, I think. Again, I kind of am running like a lower deck, and I was like, with that lower deck, I was kind of like seeing it and it was just absolutely like wiping the floor with me a lot. So I can sort of recognize that a higher up, it's just not like, it's just not that play, but it still has a really strong ability if used well. Storyteller. Storyteller, it's a decent card, and it's not that it's, would I say it's necessarily, I would say it's still a B tier card, maybe low B tier, but I think I'll just put it around C, really, to be honest. But it's a decent card, and certainly like if you can get it locked on New Kid, like, you know, they're gonna really have to play something to actually get rid of your card. Like, it's going to take that bar because your New Kid's just going to do absolutely freaking nothing to it. Next we have is Sorceress Leanne. Yeah, I'd say Sorceress Leanne is a good, like, maybe sort of kind of like B tier card. Like, I definitely think like Sorceress has a really strong ability, like along with like a good cock magic deck and stuff. If you can kind of like get off a Sorceress Leanne, like, you can absolutely crumble a push. You can very much crumble a push like against Sorceress Leanne, I would say. So I think it's a good solid B tier card. Marmor Pig. I'd say Marmor Pig's a good solid like B tier. I think there's a lot of options for like getting it on the field, and even so, like, it's still gonna take, it's still got a ton of health, and it can just really do a lot of damage while it's out there. I think it's still a decent solid card. Even though it's maybe not necessarily the strongest, and probably one of the like Not I say the worst legendary, really, the legendary that people tend to not want to play ever, really, but it's still a solid legendary, definitely. And especially if you can use it well. I guess if you want to run something like Member Berries, and your deck is just all sorted out for it. Like, so many times it absolutely, like, just annoys me to no end with the fact that, like, a Member Berries just can spawn that blasted thing because they've got a ton of, like, either spells or 2 cost characters in their hand, so they can just actually spawn that thing. Oh my god. Especially, like, if it happens in your own half. Like, that is so annoying. I'd say it's a solid B tier card, I would say. Who can Clyde? I don't know. I feel biased in just giving it D because I just feel like whenever you want to freaking whenever it wants to freaking work, I'll say like maybe C tier, to be honest. Like, it does decent damage, but like more than a lot of the times, like whenever you want to play it, like the one thing that you want it for, it's just not going to work. So I just say C tier. It can be beneficial. It can come in the clutch sometimes, but more than likely it's going to it's going to not benefit you. It's just going to target the wrong card every single freaking time. It's just going to probably target the wrong card. All right, next we have Infiltrator Kevin. Okay, Infiltrator Kevin. I feel like if you got a good benefit of a deck, I feel like you can certainly make use out of Infiltrator Kevin. But yeah, I think it's an alright card. It's a good card if you've got like a lot of like freezing cards. Like, it can absolutely melt some cards, like, which is great. Like, you can really just have some cards absolutely melt. But I find like a lot of the time you're going to end up playing it and it's just going to be very easy to, like, it's pretty fragile. So I just say it's a C tier card. I think it's hard enough to use, but I do like it. I do really like Infiltrator Kevin. It's a good card. Castle Defender. Yeah, I think Castle Defender is kind of a solid enough card. Like, it hits pretty hard. You get the actual freebie at the end, and also it doesn't get targeted by stuff like Cock Magic, or Transmog, I guess. Those kind of cards. So you can just like literally transmog it when you have it on the field, especially with Cock Magic being such a strong card as well. I definitely think like that it's a good card if you're ever really running Cock Magic. Especially in the higher ranks, I say you'd see a lot more kind of thing. A lot of towers. Like, as soon as like the last tower was released, there was kind of just a tower meta afterwards. So I'd say it's a solid B tier card probably. Next we have is Shelly. Sharpshooter Shelly, isn't it? Sharpshooter Shelly. Sharpshooter Shelly. Sharpshooter Shelly. I feel much similar the way to like I find kind of a similar way to like basically Infiltrator Kevin. She's definitely a solid card. It's just like it's sometimes kind of hard to just find kind of the right use for her. Like, she just die very kind of easily. I think she's a solid card. I just say more so kind of like, I would say more so C tier will be kind of suited for her. All right. Then we have Regen. Yeah, I'd say regen's similar enough to like to poison. Like it's a good card, and certainly there's times when you can find it makes kind of a lot of use. But in general, you're probably just better off like having like a fire, and can certainly be very clutch at points. But I do find there's just very few situations where you'd be able to kind of use it very efficiently. So I don't know, C tier. I'm not sure. I'll definitely be moving around a lot of these cards like later, because a lot of these cards are just not kind of in the right position. Nelly, S tier. S tier 100%. Nelly is best girl. S tier 100%. General Disarray, F tier. God, I fucking hate doggies. S tier for the bloody General Disarray. Okay. Then we have Super Craig. I think Super Craig's alright, but at the same time, unlike a lot of the other characters, I just find because he's just a vanilla card and he's just a common, he does some good damage. And especially with knockbacks and stuff like that, I feel like that honestly also kind of somewhat like has a negative impact for him as well. Is that he just spends so much time like having to just relock back onto the card and just attack them again. That I think it's just very easy to kind of like deal with him. So I'd say I'd almost be like almost like D tier with him. But I'd say like low C tier. I certainly see positions because that area of effect damage that he does is pretty good. So like if you're trying to deal with like any sort of critters or anything like that, he definitely would like be able to do a good bit of damage there and really assist. Big Mesquite Murph. It's hard to say what I'd honestly kind of pick him for. Like he's got a good ability, but at the same time he does barely any damage. So if you've got anything like locked on him, he's gonna die very fast, I think. Okay, then we have Dwarf Engineer Dougie. Definitely with the Dwarf Engineer Dougie, we're going to put that in F tier, because again, I fucking hate doggies. F tier the lot of them. F tier the lot of them. Super Ferret. I'd say C tier, honestly, because like I think Super Ferret has a lot of use. Again, it's a lot of the times you're going to want to use it when like there's a character, like it's just a good little pushback to give yourself breathing room when like you're in like or you're under pressure for your bar to be taken. Just drop that Super Ferret. You can collect yourselves to actually defend your bar. You know, so or just start up a new push or whatever. Like I definitely think it's a solid little card just to kind of have like, especially like I guess if you're running like a very high cost like deck where you're trying to respawn very high energy units, and you just have those like cheap little cards to kind of like just save yourself a bit. I think it's a good card like if you're running superheroes in general, just a little bit of an assistance. The 2 energy is not that much, and it certainly can like pay off with like just in that kind of clutch situations of which you're like just protecting your like tower. So I'd say it's a decent card. Definitely I think I'm taking a bar, but like the bloody Super Far comes and like I basically anything that's like just about to die is probably going to end up dying. Okay, now we have the Bradleys. So we have Space Pilot Bradley. God, I fucking hate Bradley. F tier 100%. F tier 100% for Bradley. Okay. Yeah, that carrot again, just everyone just fucking runs it. Basically, just can like basically go nuts, spamming their freaking assassins. They're having it just in the freaking back, basically doing absolutely nothing. Or whatever, you know, just in general, it's just like a character you just play freaking like automated shenanigans of just like dropping assassins, just like literally the gameplay itself. Just God, I hate those cards. I wish it just had like an area effect. Then maybe I might not be bothered with it. But overall, I just hate Bradley for the fact that it just won't fucking shut up. Oh, just freaking hate Bradley. That thing won't shut up. Okay, we've got Mosquito. Yeah, I don't know. Again, like, I don't really feel like they're good B tiers. I definitely will put some new stuff in B tier. I just have to kind of figure it out, but it's a good card. Like, especially like the fact that it can like keep itself healed. It's pretty good. Get it to 3 cost. It doesn't do much. I mean, I did put in him, so I guess I'll put him in as well, because I think he's a solid card as well. Like, he's definitely a character, like, if you're going to run like cheap units, like, you nearly always see him in. At the same time, you might not see him occasionally though. Rogue Tolkien, it's alright. I just don't tend to find it sees that much play, really. Like, I think like it just doesn't do quite enough damage. It doesn't really do enough damage with its ability. It doesn't really do enough damage in general with its attacks. It's an alright card, but again, it's not really great, to be honest. It's definitely one of the weaker epics, I would say. It's like one of the weaker epics, honestly. Like, of all the epics I can think of, like, it's definitely on the more weaker side, I think. Especially given that it's a 4 cost, like. But it can come in clutch sometimes. So I can see uses with it, so I'll just say C tier for the time being. Then we have Drone. I think it's a solid card, but at the same time, I just rarely ever seeing it that much play. It sees play occasionally, but I don't see it that much, really. But it could certainly be very useful, especially with, like, if you're probably pairing it with, like, with Fantasy or something. Doesn't get, like... Or also if you're maybe... Or else also if you just... Someone's accidentally bolted or something. In general, just, like... And in general, just being a flying unit can be just useful, because at least then it's not attacked by any fighters or assassins. And you need to get a freaking an archer on it, like. So, it's a C tier. It's an alright card. Call it the Drives. I think it's definitely a very strong card, honestly. Like the actual like immunity it does is so good. So I'd say it's a solid B tier card, honestly. I think it's really good. It's got a very good ability, very strong, very useful. Alternate Human Kite. I mean, it's beneficial, like, especially if it can kind of like knock you back and knock back itself. Like if it's in danger from damage, like it can get itself out of that damage. It can try and get another character to lock on. Like, instead of locking onto that, it's going to lock onto a different character's card. So I think it can be useful in that sense. It's definitely got a lot of like play kind of, that's a good sort of like play advantage, really. It's a solid card. I can certainly see it like being a good addition to your superhero arsenal for sure. Princess Kenny, F tier. I mean, again, like most assassin like epics, it's most like common assassins. ever since that kind of rebalance, like they've just been absolutely unplayable. But especially I think Princess Kenny is like, there's so many characters that just kind of make her pointless. Like, yeah, like Stan the Great, I think kind of just makes her pointless. And she just has barely any sort of damage. She does barely any kind of damage, so she really, so you kind of want to like make one character useless, but you want her to be able to kill one at the same time. And in general, also just the amount of time that she basically absolutely makes, like has you have like do 0 damage. It's just no time at all. You're going to see barely any sort of difference. So for that reason, I would just say, I would go definitely D tier. She's definitely one of like the bad cards for sure. Princess Kenny, poor Princess Kenny for sure. Witch Garrison? I really like Witch Garrison, honestly. But at the same time, would I say it's like a B tier? Would I say it's like a card I could definitely see like everyone needing to play and seeing it being a very strong kind of arc point for any sort of deck? Not really. So maybe like high C tier, maybe? Professor Chaos, F tier all the way. Fucking hate Butters. Butters is a piece of shit. God, I fucking hate Butters. Okay, next we have is Changeling Red. Yeah, I think Changeling Red is honestly a solid card. Her ability is really strong. But the problem is that at the same time, I do find there's a lot of times where you're just not going to be able to get it off in time. I can find a lot of times, like, I can usually easily deal with her. But she's a solid card, so honestly, she's a legendary at those higher levels. Like, you're going to find it really hard to, like, actually have her not take your character. And so I think she's a solid B tier card for sure. She's definitely a solid, like, B tier legendary. Member berries. God, I fucking hate member berries. I'll give it F tier. God, I hate member berries. Why the hell was this card made? Like the last thing that the game needed was essentially a like the event, like, again, like, nobody needed like member berries. Like, it was already a freaking like high cost meta. Like, the benefit, like, member berries has 0 benefit. Like, it's just really stupid. Like, I freaking hate member berries. I mean, right now it's meh. It's a card, but I think barely anyone ever plays it. But I just really mainly just absolutely despise this card just for the fact that it just made a bigger problem. But then again, they kind of like balanced it a little bit that it's kind of alright, I guess. Okay, so we have Gunslinger Kyle. I mean, I really do like Gunslinger Kyle, honestly. I do like Gunslinger Kyle. I do like that ability. And if you can use it right, I think Gunslinger Kyle is a good card. Like, especially if you've got characters that are just basically on the new kid. You can use that buff there. Or maybe in the situation where you're like, you know, you're kind of nearly almost half losing the push. But then that buff comes in, and it just plows through, you know, your units, and they absolutely melt. And it doesn't like, and the buff isn't that bad, but I am also like, I just wouldn't give it. It's very brittle at the same time. It's very frail at the same time. So like, but still, it does charge up fairly fast. But I think you can get rid of it very fast, honestly. So it's a decent card, but yeah, and just nobody really plays it just because it's just generally a very frail card. It's very situational. Captain Wendy. I feel like she's a very good, she's a very good, I would say she's a very good adventure unit, especially if you can get like if you can get like Hanky, if you can get, like if you can get like Hanky, if you can get like Santa onto it, I think she's a very good card. I really do like her a lot. I think especially like, you know, it's pretty, she's got good range, and she can just get really good value from you if you have stuff like Medicine Woman Sharon. She's a very solid card with that. I think she's a solid B tier card, honestly. Next we have Classy. I think Classy's a very strong card, honestly. I think she's like a really good epic. Like for me, I think she's a really good epic. I would give her the A tier. I think she's a really good epic for sure. Like she does a lot of damage. She could also tier very well with cards that can like heal her up. So like again, Medicine Woman Sharon, maybe Angel Wendy, Robin Tweck, or cards like Hallelujah. But yeah, like if you can get her on like New Kid, she's very likely to take nearly 2 bars. Like that buff to her damage when she reaches like about 2/3 health, like is freaking insane. So I'd say A tier in my personal opinion. I think she's a good A tier card, honestly. Terrence of Phillip. I think Terrors of Phillip in general are decent cards, I would say. Like, they do decent damage. 2 cards for the cost of 4 is pretty good of it. Is pretty good of an advantage, and they do last for a bit of time. And I don't know. I'd be kind of tempted to say C, and I'm definitely going to move up a lot of these C cards to maybe B, because I definitely think a lot of these B cards could be like upgraded to C at this point. Next we have is Lava. I mean, like, Lava is... Yeah, I mean, Lava is kind of meh, to be honest. If it was, like, 2 cost, I think I could see it certainly being used. And it can certainly find a lot of times where it's kind of useful. I mean, I'd be tempted to give it D, but I'm just like... I think it's somewhat slight uses, so I'd say maybe C. Just for that reason. Kite. Yeah, I mean, I like Kite, but at the same time, and he's a flying unit, and he can be really good at times. But yeah, I have an issue with a lot of 4-cost cards. I just think like they're cards I just do not want to be spawning. I really do not want to be spawning it if I'm running my if I'm running that, like especially like trying to run it with that. I don't know. I think he's a good card. I just wouldn't say he's on par with Cowley the Drows. So I think I might just want to drop him a tier lower and say C. But very high C tier card though. So next we have is Hermes Kenny. I'd say it's a B tier card, honestly. It's a 3-cost card, but let's be honest, it doubles your damage, it doubles the amount of energy it has. So it's really like just a free card you're playing. And especially if you're like running any sort of energy deck, like Hermes Kenny is a definite, you have to run Hermes Kenny. So I just say it's a solid like B tier card. Like it's just very it's a definitive card that's in a very definitive use. And like if you're running any sort of like mystical deck and you just kind of really need to deal with stuff fast, like just it's definitely like a good epic of choice to have in your deck. And I do like it very much, so I'd say B tier. I think it's a solid B tier card. Tool Shed. Yeah, I think it's like one of those cards that I just see rarely ever used compared to the other ones. It's a good card. It has good damage, and the ability can certainly be useful. Like being able to like stun one of your opponents, and it charges up fairly fast. So it's a solid card, but I don't really see it as usable as some of the other cards. Like I definitely see like Dr. Timothy being very useful. Again, it's a very slow card that can kind of go there. Mosquito, of course, it can like it's pretty hard to freaking kill. Captain Diabetes just being very just basically kind of like just being really cheap, and also it can be a bit of a problem if you get a few charges off with it. The Master Ninja. I'd say the Master Ninja is definitely a solid A tier card. That buff in damage is freaking insane sometimes. If you can just basically, if you can protect your cards and stuff, it's definitely a very, very strong ability. It's a fairly tanky card as well. So I'd say it's a good solid, solid A tier for sure. Next, Sheriff Cartman. I'd say Sheriff Cartman is a D tier. Like, it's not too bad, like, but it just dies very fast. But that ability is fine as well. But yeah, I see very little uses with it. Like, honestly, it's just I rarely ever see it around. Like, people only ever really run it if it's basically an event card. And just for that reason, I'm kind of like saying I would kind of go with the D tier. Really, it's kind of a bad. It's a bad card for the most part. I'd say Mind Control is B tier. Again, like it's a mandatory one if you happen to be running any kind of Mind Control deck. And yeah, like that, it's very punishing as well if you can get like a good one off. Maybe you can steal some like charge up moves. It's definitely a very troublesome card. So I would say it's a solid B tier card. Fast Pass. Yeah, Fast Pass is a very annoying card. Like the amount of range he has and how fast he can charge up, like he can do a lot of damage. So yeah, like that's a card you definitely have to make sure is not in any way angled towards your new kid. So you'd always have to try and play something like offside of the new kid. When you're playing against that card, if you're not going to be doing that, it's going to punish you. It's probably not even going to get like two hits off in the new kid by the time that you actually can kill it. So it's definitely a solid card. It's definitely a very strong superhero card. So I'd say B tier. Medusa Baby. Yeah, I'd say Medusa Baby is a solid A tier card. Like the way it can kind of like deal with a lot of like war cries and stuff. So along with like actually using removal, you could just instead use Medusa Baby and she can pretty much cancel it out, so you don't need to worry about any sort of Death Wish effects affecting her. So yeah, I'd say she's definitely a card like you probably want to be running if you're ever running a mystical event, a mystical deck. I mean, Quarterboy Butters. Quarterboy is a piece of shit. F tier. Incan Craig. I'd say it's an A tier. It's definitely kind of like a good kind of like A tier card, I would say. So yeah, basically I would say mainly with mainly kind of like with Incan. Again, dealing with a lot of flying units, so if you need to get like a flying unit, if you just kind of need to like guarantee your push, it can just really kind of like do it. At the same time, it does have very little kind of area for error, and it is of course it also has like a lot of freaking health. So I'd say it's a good, like, it's still very expensive though. It's still a very expensive, especially with like a 5 cost like range unit. You want to be careful about how you use it because, yeah, it's a 5 cost, like it's a 5 cost compared to like a lot of other 4 costs which are range units. Cyborg. Much the same with running Mind Control. It's a definite guarantee card you have to be running in. And I generally find like a lot of people who are going to be running sci-fi, you're going to at least have some sort of like Mind Control in your deck just to kind of help you out in those situations. So yeah, I'd say it's a solid B tier card for sure. Definitely punishing if you get killed by it, because yeah, that is a lot, because it definitely is a good long time in which you're mind controlled. Future Randy. I'd say like very high B tier. Like it definitely has it's definitely a very significant kind of like benefit. Being able to like reset the field. But I think you definitely have to be kind of careful with using it as well. I feel like it definitely has situations where you're just going to be using it and you're just going to be using it badly and you're going to suffer from using it. But it's a solid card, but yeah, I just don't think it's one of the stronger legendaries, really. But it does have a lot of health, and it's a slow enough attack, though. Doesn't do that much damage either. But, yeah, it's good for, like, resetting the field for sure. So I'd say it's a solid B tier card. Next we have is CKI. So we got Kanine Ike. Yeah, he's a B tier. He's definitely a D tier card. Yeah, like Kanine Ike, like as soon as like characters like the Woodland Critters and Nicole were added into the were like added into the game, like he's had no kind of use, and especially like since like any sort of legendary epic like buff, he's just kind of like, he just dies way too fast. Like, you're not going to be able to get off enough heals on him. Or enough buffs to his health to actually be able to use him effectively. And he just dies really fast. So, it's a bad card at this stage. It's definitely a bad card in the game. I wish it was better. Bindi Sally is definitely a D tier card. Again, same thing. Legendary epic buff. She's just been kind of useless then. Okay, next card we have is Full Moon Sparky. I'd say high B tier. It's definitely a solid card. Like maybe you should go in A tier. Like definitely like if it's a case of you can keep it healed up, you can keep charging its keep charging its ability. But yeah, a lot of the times I do tend to find like you're gonna try and reset it, and then all of a sudden it's just gonna get killed as it's on its way down there. But if you can kind of like protect it, make sure it's definitely not going to die. At a point, yeah, it's just going to be really annoying to kill. But yeah, I'll go for B tier anyway, because it's definitely from like what I've ever kind of like run of it. It's a solid card, but it's just like it's just gonna die. Like I can't do it before it's gonna die, and probably on the way of it actually of it basically trying to get its health back, going for its bone or whatever it is. It's going to die in the meantime, so I'd just say it's a B tier. It's alright, but it's definitely one of the kind of worst legendaries, I would say. So maybe... yeah, here will be better, I think. Alright, so... next option here is Witch Doctor Tolkien. Yeah, Witch Doctor Tolkien, I'd say, to be honest, is probably the worst legendary, honestly. It's definitely the worst legendary, so I'd say, yeah, I would go before maybe this. Okay, come on. Please, let me... alright, come on. Better, alright. So I'd say it goes towards the bottom. Get a few characters I'll probably put up a little bit higher. In a bit. We'll fix things once we're done. Medicine and Sharon. You know, I'd say Medicine and Sharon is definitely a solid B tier card. Like if you're running adventure, you're probably going to want to run. You're going to want to run Medicine Woman Sharon. Like that heal is super good, and also like it does that heal on the new kid as well. So I could definitely gotta save from like any sort of chip damage you might actually do. So I'd say it's a solid B tier card. Marine Craig. I can see its uses. Like, it's definitely got its uses in terms of chip damage, and it does do a fair bit of damage as well, and it's got good range. And yeah, it does like have a good bit of splash, so it will basically eat at some of the units as well, if they're in range of the new kids. So it's a solid card, I would say. I wouldn't say it's D tier, honestly. So I'd say it's C, very low C. I'd say is the best option for it. Okay, Mint Bread Crunch. Mint Bread Crunch is definitely F tier. 100% F tier. Again, fucking hate Bradley. All that shit that he spouts, I just want to fucking punch him in the face. Oh my god, Bradley's really fucking annoying. Bradley should just shut the F up, like you really should. Alright. Okay, next we have is Mary Jane Randy. Definitely Mary Jane used to be a lot better than she is now, I think. So... But I still think it's definitely a very solid, like, superhero character run, I think. Like, if you want to run, like, if you want to run your call girl, that's always a good character to target. And it can certainly with the actual, like, with the weed spawns, you can really, like, get a good advantage with your characters and just being able to wheel on all the other cards in there. So it can just basically just good for, like, having to, like, for basically being able to, like, retarget so that your cards can, like, basically your cards can really make the push, I guess. Or in just defense in general. Definitely those definitely the spawns are pretty useful for sure. So I'd say I'd go maybe low B tier for it, probably. Hunter Jimbo. Yeah, it's definitely a character you have to be kind of careful of, and I definitely find it's a character I just have a lot of issues with. Like, it's always gives me a lot of grief, especially, like, you know, if you're not careful, like, you already have like, you know, the closest archer having, like, over 100, like, additional attack because of all the hits and stuff. And yeah, it does have that conical damage, so gotta be careful with it for sure. Alright, next we have Purify. A lot of the times you would find that you do need Purify, and that's for sure. But I guess the problem with using Purify is that often it might just become a dead card in a lot of your decks. And there's just those particular circumstances where you're going to, like, need Purify. But for the most part, it's just a very dead card in your hand, so I'd say it's C tier. It's just too intermittent in terms of, like, when you're actually going to be using it effectively. Like, a lot of games, it's just going to be a dead card in your hand. So it's all right, but I just don't think it's versatile enough that it's going to be that great, you know. Especially, like, you're going to mainly want to use it when you're against, like, probably sci-fis mainly. As scenarios where you're probably going to be using Purify the most. But yeah, certainly there is, like, a lot of situations where you would use it, like, again, any sort of, like, increase in, like, attack or whatever to clear that up. Mysterion, I'd say it's a solid A tier card, honestly. Marcus. Yeah, nobody really likes to play Marcus anymore. He's not a bad card or anything, I think. Like, but yeah, he just doesn't see enough damage. Like, there's just nothing in terms of situations where you're really going to basically benefit from running Marcus. Like, it's just too slow in terms of the damage that it deals. So yeah, I'd say D tier, honestly. Dark Mage Craig. I mean, I think it's good, but, like, yeah. I think a lot of the time you're just going to find that it's a dead card in your hand. So you know what? I think I'm going to bring some into the D tier now. So I'm going to bring in this into the D tier. I'm going to bring this into the D tier. So yeah, I just have to bring Dark Mage Craig into the D tier and Marine Craig, just because, yeah, I think there's just not enough situations where you're going to be using it effectively. It's very situational in terms of if it's really going to be doing that much damage. And yeah, like, for 4 cost. Yeah, Marine Kate Craig being 4 costs, and Dark Mage Craig being 3 costs. I just don't think there's enough situations. It can be very useful, but it just does damage so slowly and just doesn't do enough damage to really call for using it. Arrow Tower. I'd be tempted to give it C because it definitely can, like, stalemate you a little bit. Because it does do a lot of damage. But I think there's so many situations where we're just going to wheel on it fast enough. Especially if you're, like, running a more heavier card. But, of course, if you're running an assassin, it's just going to kill it before you do. So, maybe I should put it C tier. But for here, I'm just going to run it at D tier. I think D tier is probably the right call for it, honestly. Next we've got Dog Poo. Yeah, I mean, Dog Poo was really good before, but then I just felt like they just basically kind of nerfed him enough. They just nerfed him too much. That it's just a card that he's kind of like a weak enough, like, he's a pretty weak, epic, really, to be honest. But yeah, he's got a really high attack damage, and he can be very useful in the lower ranks. So he's got that position there. But like, honestly, you're just better off using, like, yeah, like you're just kind of like just better off using Classy. That's it, Classy. Classy's just overall a much better card. Next we have is Freeze. I think Freeze is pretty cool. I feel like I put it the same on terms of Hyperdrive, where I feel like basically it's a good card, but I feel like I just fluff it up so much. And for me, it's just one of those cards where I just put it as a C tier card. It's just a card I really never play, but I can acknowledge that it has a lot of that has benefits in a lot of ways. Or else I just feel like they're characters that are kind of like really kind of solid. There's definitely a lot of cards here in C now that I'm seeing that I probably should, like, move up a little bit. But yeah, it's a card I would say it's a solid card, but at the same time with Freeze is you could fluff it up a lot, I feel like. So it doesn't really, so I wouldn't really put it into B. And yeah, just to kind of clarify my position on my rankings is, yeah, it's very biased, and Nelly is in a class of her own. Basically, I hate Butters and Dougie and Bradley. So really, D, C, and B and A are kind of the rankings that are more realistic, that are more kind of my opinions of the cards. So yeah, Swashbuckler Red. Yeah, much like the other cards in, like, C, I'm just like, there are so many situations where you're just going to honestly end up messing it up. And for that reason, I put it C. Just for that reason. DSR. I'd say A tier, honestly. I think it's a very good card. It's definitely one of those, like, fantasy cards that you're just going to, like, want to, like, run. And again, it can kind of deal with, like, just a push, a really kind of annoying push. And, like, at that point, you can really kind of, like, get it back over at that point. It's definitely a very solid, strong card. It does a lot of good. It does really solid damage. Arrow Storm. it's a really good card, but at the same time with Hour Storm though, is I could definitely see a lot of situations where you're going to be trying to run like Hour Storm, but it just doesn't do enough damage, and so you just kind of really need a very high level to Hour Storm. But yeah, like if you got a lot of critters on the field, in that you're needing to deal with like a lot of critters, it definitely gets rid of those. But I find like there's a lot of cards that you're like you're going to be trying to use it, but there might be a better situation. So I don't know. I still say it's B because again, removal is really important. So just having those issues for a good amount of removal. Okay, next we have Imp Twek. Yeah, I think I'm going to drop it in B tier, honestly. Because the thing with, like, the thing with, like, Twek here, Wonder Twek. The thing with Wonder Twek is definitely he's a very good card. Like, again, like that ability to basically sort of kind of like stun and damage the cards and just center them all together. It's definitely a very troublesome move. Again, gets like other cards like in range, gets you the ability to again zap damage the opponent and stuff. It's definitely a good solid card for sure. Or even just to try and get one of the cards off of your own card or something. Wonder Twek is definitely a solid card, so I give it a B tier. Cows can go F tier. Hate those cows. They're really freaking annoying. I freaking hate cows. They're such a boring card to play against. Oh my god, hate those things. Hate those things. We've got... next we have got Zen Cartman. Meh. I mean, it's certainly a good sponge for damage. But that's kind of just all it really is. It's a sponge for damage, and yeah, certainly it can kind of like, it can sort of provoke cards onto it, so it can like lock on your opponents to it instead of other cards, so it can be useful. But at the same time, I find it dies very fast in general. So I'd say it's alright. I can see its benefits with the C tier, so I'll give it maybe a C tier, honestly. Alright, next we have is Sizzler Stewart. A tier, definitely. I think it's a solid A tier card. Definitely very, definitely kind of like a mandatory card in a lot of these, in a lot of sci-fi decks. And yeah, if you want it on your new kid, it freaking, so if it gets locked onto your new kid, it is just going to tear bars apart. And generally, once it gets really sped up, there's very little you can kind of do against it other than maybe try and get it removed. So yeah, I'll say A for that reason. Barrel Dougie, hate Barrel Dougie, F tier. Complete F tier for sure. Again, just always annoying. God, I hate these freaking, I hate these stupid headhunters. So freaking annoying. Next we have is Pete. Yeah, I'd give Pete a B tier. Like again, if you're running like a if you're running like a good like Henrietta deck, Pete's it's a definite mandatory for that one. And yeah, his ability's pretty strong, and like he can survive for quite a while, and like his ability along with like just all the other new kids working, like all the other god kids working, they're all really strong once they get all on the field. And in general, he just does very good damage. UC, I would say, is A tier. Like, you gotta use that removal. It's a good, solid removal. Like, very high health units will, like, all crumble basically. But at the same time, it's not guaranteed to destroy. So especially some of like the characters that are like 7 cost don't work. And yeah, guys, just FYI, I'm not reading chat or anything. I'm just trying to like, I'm basically focusing on like trying to just like rank these, as my kind of first thought really. And so none of the actual none of the notifications or anything are kind of working on the stream for that reason. So yeah, what was I on again? Okay, Ice Sniper. Yeah, I feel like Ice Sniper is a very strong card for sure. Like that, like the triple, that triple shot, and she has good range. She's very slow, but whenever she does hit, she hits for pretty high damage. So she's got a freaking good amount of she hits pretty hard. So yeah, I say she's a solid B tier card, honestly. I'll be moving a lot of C cards over to B, I would say. I think a lot of my D tiers are correct though. Michael. In general, just like all the GOT kids are all pretty strong. I think they're all make for a very good kind of combination. Did I actually put this here? Yeah, I put this here. So yeah, good. Good. So yeah, I did put the Jimbo there. So yeah, B's I would say definitely. For the GOT kids as well. Mr. Slave Executioner. Yeah, I'd say Mr. Slave Executioner is a good B tier card for sure. That heal is pretty freaking good for sure. So like the way he just constantly heals himself, like you definitely need a good assassin. Like even some assassins would still struggle a little bit, so you need very good high damage output to like just basically start like actually taking down the health. But even so, after that with the whole like Cox spawn, still though he definitely is a very good value for that 5 cost. So I'd say he's a solid B tier card for sure. Program Stan. Program Stan's alright, I think. But yeah, definitely like unlike I definitely see him very little anymore in a lot of sci-fi decks. I just don't think he does enough damage really, to be honest. And the amount of time that he freezes is just not good enough, I would say. So I'd say C tier. He's got his uses, but he's alright. The Bear Jimmy. Not sure if I should go C or like B maybe. I don't know. For time being, I'll leave him in C. I think he's good, but at the same time, the amount of damage he does is just not good enough, really. And he's still like a 4 cost, so yeah, you just need to kind of pick the right time for him. But like sometimes it kind of would almost feel like it's just a kind of like a waste of energy sometimes if you're just not able to like use them effectively and get rid of like those characters and they still have a little bit of health. So I think he just kind of is a character that just doesn't do enough damage really, but still it's pretty good though. Lebard is still pretty good. I'd still say C tier just for that reason. Alright, next we have the Amazingly Randy. I'd go to Amazingly Randy B tier. I feel like he's definitely, like, if you're running any sort of, like, cock deck or whatever, he's got good range, got good DPS, and just those extra 2 Coxie spawns. Definitely kind of a strong card. Definitely kind of like a strong card. I think he's definitely a very strong kind of like range card to have in the deck for sure. So definitely kind of beneficial in general for like just kind of like protecting your new kid or for if you want to use it in combination with like Nicole, or you're just generally trying to like protect your bar and just good defense in general. I think that the Cox and like his actual damage output pretty strong. So yeah, B tier will be fine for him. Okay, the critters. Yeah, I think the critters are pretty good. Like, they could be a little bit inconsistent sometimes, but like if you can really get them going, like they're just unstoppable at this point, and they just like you can kind of like take like 2-3 bars if you really have a good setup for them. And yeah, for that reason, I'd just give it a solid B tier card. I think it's a good card, though. I definitely would say I'm one of those people that would probably not really work very well with it. Okay, next we have Astronaut Butters. Again, he's a Butters, so I'm going to give it F tier. Gotta give it F tier. Gotta hate Butters. Priest Maxi. I think Priest Maxi's a solid C tier card. I just find he's just a very expensive card to use, and you kind of already have to have a very good setup just for kind of like getting good value out of him. But then when he starts then with the enrage and whatever, and he can kind of like heal a bit better and stuff, he's very good value. He's still a very good card. I just would say for my sake, it's just kind of like he's just too expensive. So I think he's an alright card, and I could see certain use, but I'll just put him C tier honestly. Forest Monkeys. Forest Monkeys, I would say they're a solid B tier card. Like it has very good damage output. Like it's very likely to always just be the one to hit hit first, and like even after that, it still does a pretty decent amount of damage on its Death Wish, and it does that to like 3 units. So I think it's a solid like B tier card. I think it's definitely a very good assassin. It's definitely one of the better assassins in the game for sure. It's definitely a very good assassin. Grand Wizard Cartman. I would kind of put it on par with Member Pig. It's kind of hard to kind of use it effectively, I would say. It's still a solid card, but at the same time, like it's just like you're gonna like lose out on value for it often. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm going to say about it. I would say it's a solid B tier card. So next we have the Chomper. Yeah, I mean, Chomper is useless. Like, you know, you're the only other kind of the Chomper card you're going to probably be using, if you are going to be using Chomper, is basically would be Stan, really. Like, you know, I just would be like Tool Shed. Like, so I would say D tier, honestly. It's an alright card, but it's still meh. I'd say it's very much a bad card that I don't think anyone really wants to play. You don't only ever find people playing it if it's like a mandatory card. Okay, next we have is Commander Hat. Yeah, Commander Hat's pretty damn strong. Like you know, as long as you're not as long as you're being as long as you're taken with a little bit of care anyway. Like and sometimes it can kind of work against you. But yeah, like that buff like absolutely tears through units, like, so you can kind of start tearing through units, especially like if you've got like a tank, and all those buffs and all those cards onto it, like that's going to melt like instantly, basically. So I'd say it's a solid B tier card for sure. Rats. Where did I put rats again? But I think I was putting it like instead of maybe like yeah, pigeons. So I'd say it's on par with pigeons. So I would say it's a C tier card, I would say. So I'll go C tier for it. Gizmoik. It's a very good card, especially if you're like running, if you're running any sort of, if you're running any deck that's kind of like just trying to gain some, like if you're running Santa or you're running, yeah, you're running Mr. Hanky. He's a solid card, definitely a very good like assassin in the game. So I'd give it a solid B tier probably. Next we have is Bounty Hunter Kyle. Yeah, I think Bounty Hunter Kyle is a pretty good card. Like I would say, especially like if you can really protect it, like it's going to take a while to, and because it's a flying unit, like as long as you're keeping it protected, and you can certainly like get a really high attack boost on all your cards. So it's definitely good value. I'd say Som is a solid A tier card probably. Yeah, damn, my A tier is like really barren. Alright, next we have Scott Malcolmist, or Alchemist Scott. I'd go high B tier really. It's definitely kind of like very middle sort of kind of like middle legendary. It's definitely really strong. But I think it really only kind of starts to really kind of like get good value is basically when you're at much higher levels. But it's definitely a really good card, and like I'd be tempted to give it A, but yeah, I think I might give it just like kind of like a B at the moment. I still think a lot of the time at this point as well is maybe like people don't have it as quite high level as other cards as well. That's kind of another downside in saying like it's a B tier. Also, I feel like it's one of those cards I'm just gonna like mess up so often. You'd have to definitely be very, very kind of careful with it. So for that reason, I'd give it B tier maybe. You, Pastor Craig. I feel like it's got very minimal use. But it definitely has some use. So I would say maybe C tier. For the time being, I'd say C tier probably. Very low C tier. I'd be kind of tempted to give it D tier because just nobody really runs it, and like outside of its ability, outside of maybe if you're trying to protect yourself from like maybe cock magic or something, it's hard to really use. It's hard to really like honestly give any sort of reasoning for doing it, like, so I'd say low C tier maybe. Clammy Heidi, D tier definitely. It's really cheap, but it just has no health. It's just going to be like one shot or two shot. Yeah, it was done really dirty by the epic and legendary buff years ago. 3-4 years ago at this stage, I'm not sure. Okay, next we've got Robin Tweck. I feel like Robin Tweak is very good, honestly. I think it's a really good card. I would also say, though, it's just a card you have to be very careful with. I think, like, a lot of the time, like, I just go for a C card because I just find a lot of the time it's just going to be, like, I'm just going to mess up using it. And it's just whatever I'm going to play is just going to end up dying way too often, so bit of care with doing it as well. It's a solid card, but at the same time, I'm like, I'd say C tier. I think it's just way too easy to fumble. Scout Ike. For me, I think like Scout Ike is very good, along with running like Hermes Kenny. Like if I'm ever running any sort of like deck where I'm trying to like focus on energy, it does me very good value for sure. So especially like, but it is a card that you're kind of going to be like, yeah. I think maybe instead I'll just drop it to C tier though. I don't think I could really like agree with giving it with B tier. Not really. It's a good card, but at the same time, you're gonna have to run like freaking you're gonna have to run like energy staff to really get the benefit out of it. Other than that, like it's probably gonna die like before its second hit, and so you've basically gotten no energy out of it. Like, so yeah, it's good, but like it's only good I think if you're using energy staff and you're using it around midway or whatever. Alright, next we have 6 Element Randy. Yeah, I'd say B tier, really. Like, 6 Element Randy's good, like, at least for his first hit, he's very good. I think he's very good for his first hit, but then after that, he's just very slow. The Roombas are pretty useful, though. The Roombas are very good. They're very tanky and stuff. But yeah, for 5 cost, I feel like sometimes it could just feel like more so a waste of 5 energy, honestly. It's sometimes hard to get like that good 5 energy out of it. It just dies pretty fast, I would say. It just doesn't do enough damage to really, especially compared to like the other legendaries, I would say. Next we have Cupid Cartman. Yeah, I mean, I like Cupid Cartman and all. I just guess the issue I have with Cupid Cartman is that, like, he does good damage, but I feel like he also moves very fast as well. Like, a lot of the time what I'll end up doing is I'll end up trying to play him, but, like, he ends up, like, just moving way too fast, and, like, by that time he's already kind of, like, dead. He's already, like, locked onto tower and stuff, and or else he just, like, walked into a car and just he's an easy sort of, he's an easy kill. So he's a good card, but at the same time he's fairly weak and stuff, and he just moves way too fast sometimes, for my liking. He's okay value, but I just say too fast, really. So I'd say kind of a C tier for that reason. Okay, we have Prophet Dougie. Definitely, I'd say the weakest of the Dougies for sure. Still, F tier and all. F tier, absolute F tier. Kate Dougie. So, gotta give him that. Alright, next we have is Jesus. Yeah, I mean Jesus is definitely a solid card, I think. Like that heal is pretty good. He does decent damage. You get that second, like, you get that revive. I like him enough to give him the B tier, I would say. Sexy Non Randy. Yeah, I think it's pretty good. I don't think it's as good as like Polka though. The Quarter Boy's pretty good, but at the same time, Quarter Boy does very fast. But I just think compared to like Polka, especially with like this with the speed attacks and stuff like that, he's fairly slow to attack. Even with that like buff as well. Even with that like the Quarter Boy spawns, he's alright. But I'd say he's like one of the weaker. He's definitely one of the weaker Randys for sure. I would say. Yeah, he's definitely one of the weaker Randys, 100%. Probably the weakest, I would say. Big Al, I go D tier for Big Al. Big Al just does not hit hard enough. And like range damage while being an actual while being a headhunter, he just gets absolutely eaten alive. I'd say definitely Big Al is probably the worst. It's probably the worst headhunter. Prophet Doggy's pretty bad as well, but I'd say that it's definitely the weakest. Shaman Tolkien. I gotta give him the D tier as well, because I think with Shaman Tolkien, like I can see certain uses, but again, you're barely ever going to want to play him. And he's just going to get eaten alive unless you have like that one specific scenario where you're going to be using him. So he's just kind of pointless at this point. And again, he's three energy, like he's just not going to be usable. If he was like 2 energy, I'd say he'd be better, to be honest. I'd say more people might play him, but like 3 energy, nah, not worth it at all. Next we got Cyborg Tower. Gotta hate Cyborg Tower. Gotta give that the F tier. Again, absolutely terrible card. Do not know why they ever wanted to put a card like that in the game. It just freaking ruins the game. Like, maybe that stupid tower meta kind of shenanigans. I don't know what they were thinking with like making this a card. Like, come on, it's just ridiculous. It's just a ridiculous card to have put into the game. Powerbind. I think Powerbind's a solid card. I would still give it C tier. Mainly just cause like at the same time it's a card you might not ever really want to be running. There's definitely scenarios where you might want to be running it, but at the same time it's definitely much better than Purify. I definitely find there's points where you'd probably be using Powerbind a lot more than Purify. But yeah, it can be pretty inconsistent sometimes, just with like if you're really going to be needing it or not. So I give it a C tier. It's a solid card, but there's so many situations where you're just going to be like, this is just a dead card in my hand. I wish this card was not in my hand right now. Yeah, I'll give Furkle the B because, like, I like Got Kids. I think Got Kids are an interesting sort of thing in the game, and they're very strong, I would say. The Got Kids are all pretty dang strong. They're all strong as like one unit, but you always want one of those cards in at the same time. Catapult Timmy? It's not a bad card or anything. I rarely ever see it around, but like it's pretty good. Like it can do basically a fireball as a charge move basically. So like it's a very miniature little fireball, but like yeah, it can really like absolutely blast a fair few units. to smithereens. So I think it's a solid card, but it's gonna be, it's still very slow though, and I feel like it moves way too fast. So it's a C tier. It's alright. I'd be tempted to give it D tier, but it's not that bad. Mimsy. I like Mimsy. Mimsy's a cool card, but I really can't give it more than C tier, unfortunately. Still a solid card, though. Still a solid card. It's definitely a lot better than... It's definitely a lot better than Big EL, I would say. Like unlike Big EL, like it's not doing like range level damage. Sakura to be just standing there and freaking trying to like get eaten alive and stuff. So I don't know. I still think it's better anyway. I find Mimsy funny as well, so I'll give it the B tier just for that reason. Or sorry, C tier just for that reason. Next we've got Shitty Walk Guy. So we're nearly there. We have how many left? Let's check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 by 5, 35, 36. 36 remaining. So we're nearly there. It's already nearly been 2 hours. Jesus Christ. Yeah, 172 cards is a lot to actually tier, for sure. So we got Shitty Walk Guy. Yeah, I mean, Shitty Walk Guy is pretty strong. Like, if you have the right deck, you can use them very well. Even with that, I would say he's very easy to kind of mess up. So I think I'll just give him the C because I just think he's way too easy of a card to mess up. Imtwek. Yeah, I'd be the same on Shitty Walk Guy, I think. Like Shitty Walk Guy, you know, Imtwek can be very easy to just kind of end up, like, messing up. But I think that ability is pretty strong, though. Yeah, I'd say Santa would definitely be a B tier card for me. Like, yeah, that ability to like literally give people their charge units is really strong. Definitely a good kind of like a good assist card in any sort of deck that is like has a lot of like charge units. Transmog, I'd say A tier. Again, it's removal. It's very solid removal. Fireball, same. Very good removal card. At least this way you can kind of like hit multiple units. Okay, next we have is Imtwek. Sorry, not Imtwek, but what am I talking about? Okay, Pope Timmy. Pope Timmy. Pope Timmy. I'd say a solid B tier card. Basically, I think like he does good damage. He does very good damage for sure. So we have Pope Timmy. I would say is definitely a good solid card. Like that, like the ability to like pop up units is super useful for sure. And yeah, like especially if you're like avoiding running a lot of 3-cost cards in your deck, you can even like spawn really high energy cards. It does some good damage. It's a fairly slow card, so I'll give it the B tier. Dwarf King Clyde. I find like it's a card I would just very easily mess up, so I'd give it the C tier for that reason. I just think it's a card that you're very kind of easily going to mess up. But yeah, like if it does manage to, if it successfully hits one of your units, and it does it pretty fast as well, so it has a pretty fast charge time. So like Warcry, like it charges in pretty damn fast. So it's definitely a solid card. But other than that, like it just doesn't do enough damage, I would say. It's okay, but like I just think because of the fact that it's just really easy to like mess up, I just think, you know, I give it a C tier. And it just doesn't really get any play or anything like that. Mary McDaniels, I'd give it a B tier. Like, definitely like higher ranks, I definitely see a lot of people playing Mary McDaniels. And you can definitely see why. Like the ability to like cancel out those charge moves definitely can really save you a lot of annoyance. So and yeah, like again, it's somewhat like a power bind. It's like an Enforcer Jimmy kind of deal. It's certainly kind of it just kind of like even somewhat like nullifies a lot of situations where you would kind of need those cards. So definitely solid card for sure. Definitely Merit Downs. I'll give it the B. And the range is pretty decent. Catapult Timmy. I think Catapult Timmy's pretty good. Like Catapult Timmy, basically, I give it a solid B tier. Again, it's a very slow card. Very much pushes people into your own half. The rat spawns are useful. It's a pretty cheap card. So yeah, I'd say it's a solid B tier. I'd be kind of like tempted to give it C though. Yeah, I definitely need to put things into C at the moment. So slightly move things around a little bit. Okay, Paladin piece of shit, of course. Paladin piece of shit is going in F tier, 100 freaking %. Satan is A. After all, I would say it's a pretty A tier card. Like the ability to like freaking the ability to basically like a fireball with a body. Like that's definitely very solid, and especially if you're being annoying and you're using something like Archangel Bradley. With the little bit of range, that it actually kind of like has as well, it's just like it makes it a real pain to deal with and stuff. So I think it's a pretty solid card, I would say. A solid A tier for sure. Parfus Dougie. As you know, I hate Dougie, so that has to go in the F tier. God, I freaking hate those headhunters. They're really annoying. Especially Parfus. Parfus is really annoying. Parfus with the fact that it freaking freezes you. So you always have to be overly annoyingly careful. It's just a really annoying card. Kuhn. I'd say Kuhn is B tier, honestly. Like, it's definitely it's got decent health. It's fairly cheap. It's it gets buffed for every single card, and especially with the fact you can just basically spam a ton of freaking superheroes on the field, especially with stuff like, you know, the weed and the hamsters and stuff. Like, yeah, it definitely is quite an annoying little foe to actually face sometimes with those, like, with the buff it can kind of get. Enforcer is alright. Like, it's a 2 cost, so it's fairly useful. it doesn't have bad health or anything or bad damage, but at the same time, it's alright, really. It's nothing like Space Warrior Tolkien. It's nothing like Space Warrior Tolkien though. And yeah, if there's annoying cards you need to like literally get power bound. It can certainly come in the clutch for that. But I find like a lot of the times you're just not really going to find any use for playing it, and if you do, it's just going to die really fast. Hamsters is a solid B tier card, especially with the fact that it's kind of immune to like the fact that it's immune to like any spells. So like, especially with like trying to bait cards and stuff, like it can certainly bait some plays, so making them waste energy. People forgetting like that it's actually, you know, immune to spells and stuff. So, and of course it's two costs, so it's really efficient. So yeah, I'd say it's a solid B tier card for sure. Deckhand piece of shit is F tier, 100%. Next we got Frontier Bradley. Again, Bradley's a piece of shit, F tier. Towley. Yeah, I don't see much use for Towley at the moment. Like, I kind of see almost more like Poseidon stands than I ever do Towleys at the moment. But it's certainly very useful, like, especially like if you're in range of it, it can be really annoying. Like trying to kill anything with the Towley around is a pain in the butt for sure. Yeah, definitely Nymph Nicole, that's the name. Nymph Nicole is a very annoying card. I give it a solid B tier, like especially if you're running a ton of a ton of critters, that health can go up really far. If you're running even stuff like Robin Tweck with a little buffing that Nicole, god damn it, that's very annoying. So yeah, I'd say it's a solid B tier card. Like, next we got Starvin' Marvin. Starvin' Marvin. Yeah, I would say he'd go above, like, especially I think he's much more efficient in general than Mimsy. He's a flying unit, he's going to be really hard to, like, try and deal with a lot of the time. He's kind of almost, like, does, like, assassin damage. He hits pretty freaking hard. Like, unlike, for example, Mimsy, as he's a fighter rather than an actual... tank, he does a lot more damage if he does get on NK, so it's pretty easy for him to like take your bar if you're not careful. But at the same time, I feel like he's fairly easy enough to deal with. He doesn't have that much health, so I think he's and he's fairly slow to attack. So I think he's all right. I wouldn't go for B tier, but I definitely think he's a decent enough card. He's not too bad. But yeah, not to a point I'd say he's kind of like a B tier card really. I feel like he's easy enough to deal with. Okay, next we have got Elvin Bradley. Again, I hate Bradley, so F tier for Bradley. Jimbo, I'd say, is a solid B tier probably. Next we have got Friar Jimmy. So Friar Jimmy, especially at kind of like lower ranks, he's pretty decent. At higher ranks, not so much. But yeah, like, I mean, if you're running like a heal deck and stuff, I think he's a good like equip for that. But if you're just running him as your only heal option, I just think you're gonna sorely regret it. But I think he's solid enough. I would say I'd give him a low C tier. He's still kind of almost like a D tier card. Like he's like one of the regular like. Again, he just kind of really suffered from like the whole like yeah, epic and legendary rebalancing. So yeah. Okay. Next we have Shield Maiden Wendy. Again, she's a 3 cost. She can heal herself. She does some decent damage. I say she's a solid E tier card, honestly. Next we have Aliens. I feel like Aliens are decent. I would be tempted to give them. I'd be tempted to like try and move them up a little bit more, but like at the same time, I feel like they're very easy to deal with. They've got barely any health. If you have like removal or whatever, so if you got like a fireball or something, they're going to die like instantly and stuff. It's like, and you can also try and like, and I feel like especially with like a lot of people that are running like aliens and stuff, they might have something just like next to them, so instantly you have good value there. They're not bad, but at the same time, I just don't think they've got enough health really. So I think the health is really a downside for them. So I just say they're C tier card really. Archangel Bradley, I 100% would give it an F tier because it's a Bradley. I don't freaking hate those things. Energy Staff, I think it's a solid B tier card really. For me, you find like if I'm ever really running mystical, I do like to run it. It's a good kind of way of like trying to like avoid like trying to tempt your opponent into your own half. Keep the pace more so in your half, and especially like, you know, in towards like the last minute of the game, with cards like Hermes or just anything else that kind of gains energy. Like you're just going to get a big energy advantage over your opponent. So I think like Energy Staff is a pretty solid card. Angel Wendy. Yeah, I mean, like, I think Angel Wendy is pretty damn good. If you've got a good setup for her, I think she's pretty good card. But at the same time, I just would give her the C tier because she just doesn't do enough damage. And like, if you get anything on her, she's going to die very fast. She's kind of just a bit too... She's just kind of like a bit too weak. Like, you really just kind of want to be more so running like Medicine Woman Sharon if you're trying to heal anything. Or probably to be honest, you'd be more so wanting to run Friar Jimmy, or not Friar Jimmy, but Priest Maxi or something. Next we got Critters. Yeah, I mean, I think Critters are pretty good. Like three units for the price of 2 cost is really good. And yeah, they hit pretty hard. They're like assassins, so I think they're a good solid B tier card. I really don't think there's much like of a loss for like actually playing them in your deck. And they, of course, they can combo with like other cards like they can like with like Nicole and stuff, and in general they're just kind of like a good kind of, it's just a good value. So I just give it like a B tier for that reason. All right, next we have is Tupperware. Tupper is like a C tier card. I think it's an okay card, and yeah, like we're gonna try and start moving things down now, to what I really want to get rid of. So which are the main cards I kind of want to get rid of? I do not know per se. Which would be the best cards to get rid of from here? It's kind of hard to pick which ones to get rid of. So I think before I move things down at this point, I'm going to just finish and just place everything in. And then we're just going to like have one final look and just decide where we want to put things. Mecha Timmy. Mecha Timmy, I would put high B tier. Like, I like Mecha. I think that ability is really good. He's very slow. But yeah, he is pretty frail. Like, unfortunately, people just haven't been very kind to him, like giving him a lot of like nerfs and stuff. And it's like, I don't think he needs those nerfs. But he's still a solid card. Very slow. Definitely like a well-timed mecha. Mecha Mind Control can certainly be very helpful. So I think he's a solid, like, high B tier card, probably. Poseidon Stan. Yeah, I'd say it's like C tier. Like, I think it's pretty good. Like, it does, like, its ability is pretty strong. Like, it does definitely, like, slow you down for a fair bit. Though it doesn't really do that much damage. I think its slowdown can be very useful for sure. So I'd say it's a C tier. I don't think it's too bad. Yeah, I'd definitely say with Warrior Tweck. Isn't it Warrior Tweck? Yeah, Warrior Tweak. Warrior Tweak. I'd say it's a solid B tier card. I'd say that like the actual, like, it's got very good range. It's got very good range. It attacks pretty fast. The speed up is pretty good as well. So I'd say it's a solid B tier card. Dr. Mephisto. Again, it's a very good card. Like, the fact that it can like do damage to like multiple of your cards is pretty damn good. I guess the thing is you just have to be kind of careful with how you're playing it, because sometimes you just might be pushing your opponents into your own half and honestly giving them a better setup really to defend. And so you got to be kind of careful with it, like with how you're using it. Like, you really want to be using it when it's actually going to kill stuff. Next, I would say Smuggler Ike. Honestly, it's just not very, it just even with that like buff and stuff, it's just going to get one shot all the time. So I'd say I would go for like a D tier for that one. Hallelujah. It isn't bad, I would say, but nobody really wants to kind of like play it, and I think there's just kind of like better options really than just like using a specific card to try and heal up all your but it could certainly come in the clutch to have it. But yeah, I'd say that anyway at the moment. So yeah, now it's time to slightly organize the list a little bit. So trying to make things a bit better. So preferably to increase, to probably put in a lot more D tier cards. So Okay, main thing is I want in D tier. It's kind of hard to like decide because a lot of these cards have their benefits. So I don't really feel like calling them D tier. Like, I always look at these cards and think, I could see a lot more benefit with each of these cards. But then we look at these D tier cards, I'm like, a lot of the time, you're just not going to get good value out of them. Like, a lot of these cards are kind of slow. Again, I hate these cards in D tier. C cards, I could see a lot of benefits from them, but a lot of the time you're just not going to get that like benefit out of them. Yeah, I'd move Witch Garrison up to B. I think that slowdown is really good. Again, it has a lot of energy. Yeah, Hyperdrive up to B. I will leave Freeze and Powerbind in there just because, again, I just find that they're going to be hard to like use very effectively. Poké is decent, so maybe I might give that a low B tier. I really do like Infiltrator's ability though, but it can be a little bit fickle to use. And we're going to go here next. Okay, we played this one last time. Yeah, I'll keep Nathan C tier just because of the fact that I feel like he's very frail. And I just feel like a lot of the time he's not going to be usable. That I find is fine, but at the same time, I just don't... Like, it's definitely not something I consider B tier because I just don't find its ability is strong enough to really make me think it's a B tier card. All these other cards, I find there's just a lot of situations where they're very fickle to use well. Yeah, so I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to basically leave it here, actually. Because, so yeah, these are my positions right now. Again, absolutely willing to, like, clown on me for my choices, but I'm just going to leave them here at this time, at the moment anyway. But yeah, my S tier option is Nelly. My A tier options are Mr. Hanky, Inuit Kenny, Cock Magic. We've got Call Girl, Lightning Bolt. We have Dark Angel Red, Classy. We have the Master Ninja. We've got Medusa Baby, Inuit. We've got Incan Craig, Mysterion, Dragon Slayer Red, Scissor Stewart, Unholy Combustion, Set of Many Moons, Transmogrify. Then there is Fireball, Satan, Shield Maiden Wendy. Okay, then with B tier we have Mecha Timmy. We've got Alchemist Scott. We have Espo Titty Bang, Changeling Red, Henrietta. Then I will go with this character. Then I will go with, of course, Grand Wizard Cartman, Member Pig, Full Moon Sparky, Dr. Mephisto, Future Randy, Sixth Element Randy, with Dr. Token. We've got Chicken Coop, Captain Diabetes, Mosquito, Mr. Mackey. Space Warrior Tolkien. Then we have Dr. Timmy. Osmo 4000. Sorceress Leanne. Scuzzlebutt. Castle Defender, we have Kyle the Droves, we have Captain Wendy, we have Terrence of Phillip, we have Hermes Kenny, we have Micah Troll, we have Fast Pass, then Cyborg Kenny, then Menso and Sharon, then Mary Jane Randy, Hunter Jimbo, Osimo, Wonder Tweck, Pete, Ice Sniper Wendy, Michael, Mr. Save Executioner, The Amazing Randy, Will and Critters, Forest Monkey, Commander Hat, then we have Gizmo Ike, followed by Bounty Hunter Kyle, Jesus, Furkle, Sana, Pope Timmy, Mary McDaniels, Catapult Timmy, The Cune, Chaos Minions, Nymph Nicole, we've got Ned, Warhero Ned, isn't it? Warhero Ned, is it? Warhero Ned, or something. Okay, then we have Energy Staff. Then we have oh my god, I'm so bad. Maybe I should do it this way, actually. This would be easier to do it. Yeah, this is much easier for me to actually literally show you my list. Right? Not really. Doesn't work very well. That does work a lot. A lot. A lot. A lot. A lot. Underpants Gnomes. That's what it is. Underpants Gnomes. Because, of course, I cannot, for the life of me, read. Where did I stop? Underpants Gnomes. Oh, here. Underpants Gnomes. Okay. Then we have... whatchamacallit? War by Trek. Sorry, that's it. War by Tweak. Okay. Then we have Witch Garrison. Then we have Hyperdrive. We have Pocahontas Randy. We have Infiltrator Kevin. Then we have Priest Maxi. Juice Scout Ike. Then we have Human Kite. Then we have Mesquite Murph. Freeze Ray. Parabind. Sharpshooter Shelly. Storyteller Jimmy. Nathan. Swordsman Garrison. Sexy Nun Randy. Stan the Great. Thunderbird. Outlaw Tweck. Buccaneer Baby, Alien Clyde, Rat Swarm, Pigeon Gang, President Garrison, Blood of Baby, Officer Barbrady, Robin Tweck, Poison, we've got Regeneration, then we have Hokan Clyde, Super Craig, Super Fart, Rogue Token, Alien Drone, Ultra-Human Kite, Gunslinger Kyle, Lav Exclamation Mark, Tool Shed, Purify, Dog Poo, Swashbuckler Red, we got Zen Cartman, Program Stan, The Bar Jimmy, what you call him again? I keep forgetting what he's called again. Oh yeah, you pass to Craig. That's it. You pass to Craig. Then we have Cupid Cartman. Then we have of course, our Timmer. Partship Timmy. Then we have, of course, the stupid Starvin Marvin. Then we have Mimsy. Then we've got Shitty Walk Guy. Then we've got Imtwek. Dwarf King Clyde. Enforcer Jimmy. We have Towley. Then Friar Jimmy. Aliens. Or Visitors, I should say. Visitors, Angel Wendy. Tupperware. Poseidon Stan. Hallelujah. For D tier. We've got Arrow Tower. Then we've Marine Craig. Dark Mage Craig. PC Principal. Robo Baby. Aiden Queen Red. Terrence Hephaestus. Hercules Clyde. Princess Kenny. Sheriff Cartman. Kanina Shaik. Bandita Sally. We have Marcus. We have the Chomper. We have Clammy Heidi. We have Big AL. Then there is Shaman Tolkien, followed by Smuggler Ike. And of course for F tier, as you all know, guys, I absolutely hate Dougies. I don't like butter. I hate butters. I hate Bradleys. And yeah, just other really annoying cards that are in the game. I hate them. So, yeah, for F tiers, of course, we have General Disarray, we have Dwarf Engineer Dougie, Space Pilot Bradley, Professor Chaos, and Member Berries. Then we have Quarter by Butters, Midberry Crunch, Cows, or Cow Stampede, I should be saying. Cow Stampede. Then we have Barrel Dougie. Then we have Astronaut Butters, Prophet Dougie, Cyborg Tower, Palin Butters, Parfus Dougie, Deccan Butters. That's it, Deccan Butters. Followed by Frontier Bradley. Then we have Elvin King Bradley. And finally we have, of course, Archangel Bradley. So yeah, that is every single card that I have there. And yeah, I think I can save and download, right, can't I? So what I'm going to do is I am going to post that on the Discord for you all to actually look proper. Though, you know, because of course you probably like fell asleep as I was calling them all out. But hey, I think it's fun to just see all of those cards, name all of those cards. And yeah, just for a little bit of perspective on maybe my opinions of cards. And yeah, I feel like I would, if I had more time, I would probably have slightly changed them around a little bit, but I think that is the vague gist of basically where I would put everything. I would move things around a bit, but just off the top of my head, if I were to try and like look at each, you know, tier, in a sense of like how consistent I feel like a lot of the characters, the cards are. I just feel like they're more I feel like the more consistent ones are up in B. I feel like the less consistent ones are down in C. The cards I feel like are just really bad are in D. And of course, Nelly is just like S tier. I probably should put a lot more things in A tier, but I just don't really know what to say anyway, so. Let's just name this though. And save it. And download it, I guess. Because I would like to download this image. And I'll share it on the Discord there. So download image. Now it's downloaded. So yeah. Thanks so much to everyone for watching. Until next time, you take it easy. I will see you all again tomorrow for some Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Yikes, I was at this for 2.5 hours. But yeah, I didn't practice beforehand. I just basically did it on the moment. I tried to think logically in terms of how I would vary each card. And yeah, it's freaking hard. It's freaking hard to think about 172 cards and just how you would compare them to each other. It was a tough task. But I hope you had a bit of a laugh with it. Good night, everyone. Peace out. Bye-bye. I'll be uploading this onto YouTube shortly. Good night.